We're about 30 miles south of the city of Atlanta at the Atlanta International Raceway in Hampton, Georgia. The occasion is this year's running of the Atlanta 500 stock car race. As you can see, the cars are now beginning to move out of the pits, preliminary to the pace laps, and then the green flag falling and the race getting underway before a tremendous crowd here today. Good afternoon, I'm Jim McKay reporting from Atlanta International Raceway. And you know, the coming of spring just about everywhere means the coming of color, but usually it's the red of the azaleas and the yellow of the forsythias and the white of the dogwood. But down here in the American South, in many parts of it at any rate, it means the colors of race cars, the blue of Richard Petty and the orange of Cale Yarborough and the yellow and blue of Dale Earnhardt and the other colors of the drivers on down the line. Everybody has their favorite driver, their favorite color, their favorite car, and even their favorite number. It's going to be an interesting afternoon here, so let's bring in right away our expert on the motorsport, Sam Posey. It's going to be a good one, I think.
Jim, I think so. And as you mentioned, the changing of the seasons, it occurs to me that there's a changing of the guard in NASCAR, too, going on right now. The legends of the sport are still there, and we'll see them racing today. Richard Petty, Cale Yarborough, David Pearson. But these men no longer win regularly, and they are certainly not the future of NASCAR. So who is? Young Bill Elliott, 29 years old, from Dawsonville, Georgia, is one of these prospects. He got very hot toward the end of the season last year, won several races, and then he began this year by dominating the Daytona 500. In the process, he's become the favorite for the national championship. But then what happened? 2 weeks ago in Rockingham, he had crashed, fractured a bone in the lower part of his left leg. Now, he can drive, and he's here. In fact, he's qualified third. How far he can go in the race remains a question at this point. He has a relief driver standing by, Jody Ridley. But, you know, the NASCAR fans like their drivers, frankly, to drive hurt. It shows that they have the right stuff, and I know that's on Bill Elliott's mind. It's going to be a fascinating story to follow.
Let's check it in the pits now with our man down there, Larry Newber.
Thanks, Jim. Tires, tires, and more tires. You know, there are those who will tell you that the reason for the astronomical jump in speeds over the past couple of decades is this. True, horsepower and aerodynamics are certainly very important, but if you cannot apply it directly to the racetrack, you have made no progress at all. Now, in 1984, it was nothing for a Grand National team to burn maybe 30 of these babies in a race, and that's very expensive, a tire bill of almost $4,500. But in '85, the rule has been changed. During any yellow flag stop, you can change no more than 2 of these tires. Now, some of the teams say that's not safe on a racetrack like Atlanta. But other teams are saying, yeah, but that's going to cut our tire bill in just about half. That's certainly something for you to watch for during today's race.
Well, here are the driver point standings after 3 races. Lake Speed is the surprise leader with 469 points, but that's only a 15-point margin over Darrell Waltrip. Then Jeff Bodine, Harry Gant, Neil Bonnet, and the rest of the top 10. Now, on the pole today is Neil Bonnet of Alabama with the record qualifying speed, and next to him, the one-time Indianapolis Rookie of the Year, Tim Richmond. In the second row, we'll see the wounded Bill Elliott driving with that bad leg. Cale Yarborough, the veteran, has won 7 500-mile races on this race course. In row 3, Ricky Rudd is a former Rookie of the Year. Harry Gant was a late starter in the big time, who at age 45 is at the height of his career now. David Pearson, the 50-year-old Silver Fox, is one of the sport's legends. Dale Earnhardt won the national title in 1980. Lake Speed leads the NASCAR point standings, as we said. Next to him, Rusty Wallace was the 1984 Rookie of the Year. Ron Bouchard is a geographical exception, a NASCAR driver from New England. And Jeff Bodine made a strong impact last season with his first 3 Grand National victories. Now, here are the others in the field. Notice Bobby Allison in row 7, Kyle Petty in 8, and our camera car, Benny Parsons, in row 9. There's Darrell Waltrip down in the 11th row, and King Richard Petty in the 12th. Indianapolis star Tom Snever in the 15th row, and A.J. Foyt, the Indy legend, just one of the guys here in the 17th row. Now, we're going to have not one but 2 cameras in the car of Benny Parsons, who won this race last year. That's car number 55, the green and white car there, or black and white car, I should say. And there's a look over Benny's shoulder as he looks at the car in front of him. As I said, we have that camera. We also have one on the right-hand door. Benny, exactly what's happening in that car now? Do you have a checklist you go through? What are you doing?
Right now, I'm just working accelerator to make sure I don't foul any spark plugs.
Benny, how about the fact that you won this race last year? Does that give you any special confidence right now, or is this just a clean slate?
Oh, I think we got a better shot because of last year, because we got some knowledge on how to set up for this racetrack.
How do you appraise the condition of the racetrack And the wind, is that going to be a factor?
The wind is definitely going to be a factor down in turn 1.
Good luck to you, Benny. I know the start's just moments away now.
Okay, ready for the start of the Atlanta 500. The green flag out, and they are underway. Going into the first turn, it's Neil Bonnet down low and Tim Richmond up high. The two of them still side by side. Nobody has taken the lead yet. Just behind them is Bill Elliott. No, that's Cale Yarborough going down low. Yarborough going for the lead. Doesn't have it. It's still Neil Bonnet, the pole sitter, then Cale Yarborough, then Tim Richmond and Bill Elliott. Those are the first 4.
A good, clean start, and I think it's an indication of how fast the pace is going to be, that they have already moved to within about 2 or 3 miles an hour, Jim, lap speed of their qualifying speed.
Cale Yarborough gets his nose in front just a little bit. Neil Bonnet up high, now moving just past him again, absolutely even, just about. Dough handle to dough handle, as they used to say in this circuit, although they don't have door handles on the car.
3 abreast there for a second.
Yep.
Neil Bonnet on the outside takes the lead, and now the battle is for second. Tim Richmond down on the inside. Here's
Benny Parsons trying to work his way through the cars. He was starting on the 9th row.
That's Kyle Petty out there on the right in the
3370
blue car. There's Benny working, obviously working very hard at this point, Jim. This is no regular office. Look, Benny's trying to make a move on the inside. Nope.
Yep. There he is, number 55, the black and white car.
You know, we preferred, Jim, to these cars as Chevrolets and Fords. Of course, the body shapes resemble Chevrolets, Fords, Pontiacs, and so forth, but in fact, the chassis, most of the suspension gear is pure racing car. Nonetheless, the fans here root very vociferously for the different makes, and we'll be following the battle between especially Chevrolet and Ford today. You see a Chevrolet running first with a Ford second and another Ford third, so it's hot stuff as they battle for the lead.
That's right. Neil Bonnet has Chevrolet, remember. Cale Yarborough has a Ford. Bill Elliott a Ford, and Tim Richmond has a Pontiac. Those are the 4 leaders right now. It is still the pole sitter Neil Bonnet in first place, followed by Cale Yarborough, Bill Elliott, and Tim Richmond. Much more to come. Jeff Bodine has made a big move up in the 4th. Ricky Rudd's also going well. Tim Richmond, who sat on the first row, is dropping back. A gritty performance by Bill Elliott. And while that left leg hurts, Bill Elliott is still pushing hard with the right leg. There he is in 3rd place, but look at Cale Yarborough right now, trying to take the lead. Trying to take the lead from Neil Bonnet, but not yet. Not yet. Neil is not yet ready to relinquish the lead, or is he now? Again, Yarborough gets his nose in front. Elliott stalking the two of them. Now Bonnet again. Is this racing or not?
This is sensational. See the yellow car just poking its nose in on the right. There's 4th and 5th, Jeff Bodine and Ricky Rudd. And Jeff Bodine, Jim, has moved all the way up from 10th or 11th, and he is suddenly starting to press the leaders. He's by far the fastest moving car on the track right now, and I suspect Neil Bonnet can see that yellow nose back there, and he may very well know that the real race is with Jeff Bodine at this point, not the 2 men right behind him.
Bodine actually started 12th on the starting grid, now all the way up to 4th, and we're still in the early stages of the Atlanta 500. So Cale has decided to lay back a little bit, at least for the moment. He made his big move on Bonnet, was rebuffed, and now we'll just sit there for a bit, perhaps.
Yes, and here comes Bill Elliott in a bid for second, which he hasn't quite been able to get into second place. Now, of course, we've worried about how his leg might be affecting. You might think that that left leg wouldn't come into play much, Jim, in racing of this kind, where you only shift gears leaving the pits. But in fact, as you're going through the turns, you use the left leg to brace yourself. You put it against the firewall of the car and brace yourself with it. And so it could be hurting him considerably. Of course, that's what people, in a sense, I mean, they don't wish anyone ill, but they like to see their man tough out there. And I think that Bill Elliott is tough.
As you said, he does have a relief driver standing by in the pits. That's 43-year-old Jody Ridley. Right now, he's down there with Larry Newber. Tense moments for him.
Well, this is Jody Ridley, the potential relief driver for Bill Elliott, should that leg prove to be a problem. But right now, it looks like it doesn't, Jody?
Well, they say it felt pretty good for him right now, and the car looked like it's handling real well. He's picking up pretty good in the corner, so if he don't have to jam it or something like that, you know, he'll stop or hit the brake real hard. It's going to be okay.
race course, still tremendous racing. Neil Bonnet, Cale Yarborough down low, and number 9, Bill Elliott, up high. They go into it. Look at Yarborough.
Jim, look at that. Yarborough running that very, very low groove, either hit a bump or got into some aerodynamic interference. He almost lost it.
He certainly did. Bonnet still leading, Elliott second, and now Yarborough, at least momentarily, has dropped back to fourth. We get to turn 4 again. There's Neil Bonnet. Oh, and he gets squirrely.
Oh, look at these guys.
That's Bill Elliott in car number 9, taking the lead in the Atlanta 500. Lots of action all of a sudden. Jeff Bodine now going past the pole sitter, Neil Bonnet. Cale Yarborough had dropped back, but now he's moving up again. This is wild stuff.
Bonnet, who of course has been leading Jim for some time, it seems to be in some kind of handling trouble. His car is very squirrely in the turns. Watch him, he's on the right of your screen now. He's dropped all the way back from the lead. Neil Bonnet in some sort of trouble. Bill Elliott now in the lead with Jeff Bodine, who's come, as you said, all the way from 12th up to 2nd now. There's Bonnet.
Right, he's back in 5th place right now. Let's set the leaders then. Bill Elliott in 1st place, followed by Jeff Bodine, Ricky Rudd, Cale Yarborough 4th, and Neil Bonnet 5th. A lot more racing still to come here when we return a little bit later to Atlanta International Raceway. Jim McKay reporting with Sam Posey, and once again, you're in the car with last year's winner, Benny Parsons, currently running in 11th place in the race.
And Jim, you know, balancing a car in these long turns like this, keeping it from spinning, it's not unlike standing on a tightrope out in the wind. People sometimes say, gee, don't they get bored turning left all the time? The point is, if they stop for even a moment, concentrating 100%, they'd spin out.
And look what's happening here on the race course. Number 9 down low is Bill Elliott. Up high, number 15 is Ricky Rudd, who has been moving up steadily in this race and now is bidding for the lead. Let's see if he holds on to it. Coming out of the turn, we should know, and it's Ricky Rudd now leading the Atlanta 500. Bill Elliott is 2nd. And into the pits and immediately into the garage area goes the legendary A.J. Foyt. It looks like the day is done for A.J. He was never competitive in this race. But boy, are the leaders competitive here.
2 young lions. There's just no other way to describe them. Rudd, 28, and, of course, Bill Elliott, 29. The comers of the future, having a good battle right now.
They certainly are. Stock car racing, of course, has always been a family operation with the Petty families and the Wood brothers, the Pitt crew, and the Allisons and others. And so it is with the Elliots.
I'm Dawsonville, Georgia's race driving son. My car's number 9, a running son of a gun. I got my start when I was just 17, driving a car on my daddy's race team. But now things are different. Crowd's roar is heard when I pass the stands in my new Thunderbird. I'm Wild Bill Elliott, a crazy racing man. I'd like to live up to John Wayne if I can. The press thinks I'm country and name me Huck Finn. But if Elton John's country, that's the group I'm in. I fly my own plane, and when I'm in the clouds, think how that Winston Cup would make my family proud. I'm driving my best when I make them tires burn, and I still give her hell when I hit my last turn.
Well, the voice isn't Kenny Rogers, and the song isn't in the top 10, and the man singing, Bill Elliott, is most at home not on the Nashville stage, but here in Dawsonville, Georgia, population 342. A good number of those are 3 generations of Elliots, all of whom live within walking distance of this converted schoolhouse. It's a schoolhouse where the classes aren't the basic reading, writing, and arithmetic, but the 3 C's, cars, cylinders, and chassis. It's tucked away in the piney woods north of Atlanta. Oldest brother Ernie's the point man in the operation, crew chief and chief engine builder. Middle brother Dan assists in the engine building and more than once has been mistaken for the youngest brother, 29-year-old Bill.
It's Mr. Brooks in. Yeah, this is Bill Elliott.
Young and determined, Bill's one of the most popular drivers on the circuit. Most drivers had a childhood hero. Did he?
You know, I really didn't have heroes or nothing like that. I just looked at things realistically. You know, I didn't go to very many Grand National races. I didn't really follow the sport. I think I went one time in '73. You know, and I think Pearson won the race in Atlanta, and I looked at him and said, boy, I'd like to do that. You know, I was sitting in the infield watching the race, and I think he won the race that day, and I'd say, boy, I'd like to do that.
Well, Bill wasn't alone in wanting to do that. The family was with him all the way. Took quite a while, but after this year's Daytona win, Mom and Dad Elliott, well, they were almost literally bursting with pride.
This is what we've always hoped for. We've always dreamed of the boys running NASCAR, running the Grand National circuit.
Well, not only are they running, but they're winning. Now it's the Elliots, good old hard-working Georgia boys who stand ready to challenge for the national championship. Does Bill thank God he's a country boy?
It depends on what your definition of a country boy is. I just try to be myself. I'm sometimes easygoing, except when I get in a race car, and then I get serious about what I'm doing. But I try not to let life bother me, and I'm just a normal, everyday guy.
That is, if you consider you got to be an everyday guy who is battling for the lead in the Atlanta 500 in second place right now in car number 9, trailing number 15, Ricky Rudd, by the smallest of margins. And there goes Bill Elliott making another move for the lead.
Well, you know, Jim, as Elliott takes the lead, you compared him earlier to the Richard Petty family because of the family connections in racing, and the Petty style is really very different from Bill Elliott's. Petty used to lay back in the early stages of the race, make his moves toward the end. Bill Elliott likes to get up front and lead. We're seeing evidence of it here, and we saw it at the Daytona 500 where he led throughout much of the race. Of course, then he didn't have the injured leg that he has now.
No, and you might think that with the injured leg, he would lay back a little bit and then try to make a run for it late in the race, but that's not the case. He's been pushing hard from the start. Second place, Ricky Rudd. Third place, Cale Yarborough. Tim Richmond back up into fourth. Jeff Bodine and Neil Bonnet have dropped out of contention at the moment. They're back in the pack.
Cale in that predominantly orange nose car there, actually abreast of second place, wouldn't you say, Jim? Classic
right.
racing.
Ricky Rudd at 15 up high. 28 is Cale Yarborough down low. And it looks like this time he's got him. He's got him.
Here's a man with more than the experience of the two men that he's racing against. You see first Bill Elliott on the left, Cale Yarborough in the middle, and Ricky Rudd on the right. Those three men, two youngsters, so to speak, not yet 30, and Cale Yarborough, one of the authentic legends of the sport. The only thing that's the same about these three men, they're all driving Ford Thunderbird bodied cars.
In just a few days, Cale Yarborough will be 45 years old. And as you said, the leader is 29. The third place car is 28. We have an experienced sandwich here.
Yeah.
Experienced sandwich between the two youths.
And boy, does Cale Yarborough know what he's doing in a racing car.
And again, the leaders are Bill Elliott first, Cale Yarborough second, Ricky Rudd third, Tim Richmond fourth. And there's much more racing to come. Now we have a yellow flag that was caused by the third generation of one of those racing families just a couple of minutes ago. This was number 7, Kyle Petty of the Racing Petty, spinning out.
Well, he flat-spotted all 4 tires, Jim. Then he pitted, changing all 4, which by their old rules would have been legal, but under the new rules, which only allow you to change 2 tires under yellow, he drew a penalty of 2 laps.
Okay, more on that story from Larry Newber.
Well, this is Leonard Wood, one of the famous Woods brothers, and this is a flat-spotted tire. That was Kyle's problem, right?
Well, he cut a right front tire down, and then he locked it down, and then he blew all the others out. So when he came in, we had no choice but to change all 4. And then, of course, we had to take the penalty. We couldn't very well go back out on 2 flat tires on the left side.
What do you think about that decision where you feel you have to take the penalty because of the new rule?
Well, you know, I guess the rule's all right, but I think it needs a little adjustment. I think a 2-lap penalty is a little too severe. Since you have 2 flat tires, you know, you can't very well go back on the racetrack with 2 flat tires, you know.
Well, that's the new tire rule, and the first time it's coming into play during today's race.
All right, Larry, now we're getting the green flag. They are racing again at Atlanta. A cool afternoon, good racing conditions, and it is Bill Elliott and Cale Yarborough battling for the lead. Bill Elliott in the lead, Cale right behind him. Fell into his draft, now moving down. Up. He might make a move, and now he's trying him again.
Well, of course, these two men have been racing like this, Jim, throughout much of the race. One of the great benefits from Bill Elliott's point of view of racing at close quarters with a great champion like Yarborough, who's putting a move on him here, is that he can learn a good deal from a man like Cale Yarborough.
As Cale takes the lead, and now smoke coming across the racetrack. The yellow comes out again, and it is car number 17, Ken Reagan. Ken Reagan bringing out the yellow. There he is on the backstretch. So again, they're racing under the yellow at Atlanta. But what an afternoon it is with Cale Yarborough now leading the race. He just got the lead before the yellow came out, and Bill Elliott in second place, and so much more to come, it appears. Jeff Bodine, those are the only 3 cars on the same lap.
All have run extremely strong at one stage of the race or the other. The early phase really belonged to Bill Elliott with a terrific charge going on from behind by Jeff Bodine, who was the fastest driver on the track. Cale at that point was not among the fastest runners, although he was constantly in the first 4. Suddenly, now as the track is heated up a little bit, Cale is coming to the fore.
We might add that in 4th place is Terry Labonte, 1 lap down, and in 5th place, our camera car, Benny Parsons. There is Benny in car number 55. He is in 5th place in the race, so he can't cut him out quite yet, although he is 1 lap down.
Tailing none other than Darrell Waltrip there. He's directly behind Darrell Waltrip. Benny is having himself quite a day. He's moved up steadily. His car, he tells us, is working very, very well. You see him working his way through the turns there. Most of this track is turns. It's a 1.5 mile track, but you spend all but about 10 seconds of a half-a-minute lap in the turns themselves. Now, to us, of course, we cannot see the invisible currents of air. That's Richard Petty on the right of him there. We cannot see the invisible currents of air flowing around these cars, but if you wonder why they seem to move from side to side and be a little unstable and hard to control, it's because at 165, 170 miles an hour, the air moving around them can literally throw a car right out of control.
You hear the radio voice from the pits occasionally telling Benny, remember, what his most recent lap time was. There you hear him accelerating. Hear the sound? Now coming off it a little bit, you can hear it.
Yes, you have to back off and even touch the brakes going into the turns, but he's back onto the power now as he comes down the start-finish straightaway with the speed climbing to about 175 right there. Now he's back out of the power. You need power here, though, because, Jim, as you're putting the power on here, you see how much banking there is, 24 degrees of banking, and the car really fights against that as it accelerates up and out of the turn and down the straightaway.
Now let's move up from Benny Parsons to the leaders. Remember, he's this distance plus 1 lap behind the leaders. And it's still Cale Yarborough in front. Bill Elliott in second place, dogging his tracks. Using that draft, of course.
Of course, although it is not here in Atlanta, the draft, the factor that it is on the super speedways such as Daytona and Talladega. The draft works there, but the minute you're back down into the turns, the draft, which consists of nothing more than the fact that the guy in second place, in this case Bill Elliott, doesn't have to push the air out of his way, so to speak. Look at that crowd, Jim, and now the sun has come out. It's really a classic race and a classic confrontation between old age, currently in the lead, and youth stalking him.
And there has to be at least some advantage in the fact that the car in the lead, or the man in the lead, Cale Yarborough, has won 81 times on this circuit. Bill Elliott in second place has won 5 times. Certainly there's an advantage to youth, but today that is somewhat compensated for by the fact that Bill Elliott is driving hurt with a badly hurt left leg.
Well, earlier I asked Cale what personal characteristics of Cale Yarborough, the man, carried over into his racing. It made him so good at it.
I think the biggest thing I have going for me, Sam, is I give it more than 100% the first lap and also the last lap of every race. I put my heart and soul and everything that I have into doing the best that I possibly can during a race. And, you know, I pride myself in being able to do that. It's something that you have to work at, but I think that the day that I go to a racetrack thinking, well, you know, maybe I might run second today, I think that's the day I'll go home and won't come back, because I go to every race to win.
Well, 81 times, Cale Yarborough's best has been good enough to win the race. Right now, as you see, he continues to lead by just about the narrowest margin you could have over young Bill Elliott. What a finish we should have when we return here a little bit later. With an injured left leg. The relationship between the two cars, well, as we said, it is growing. You saw Elliott, and it's all the way up here before you find Cale Yarborough again. What's the problem? There seems to be some problem because Elliott is dropping further back. Let's get a report in his pit from Larry Newman.
Ernie Elliott just confirmed that Bill Elliott is definitely slowing down, but it is not a physical problem with Bill. Their tire stagger, or this various size of the 4 tires they have on the car, is off. The car is running very loose. They would very much like to have a yellow flag and go fast again.
Well, that's what's making Elliott drop back. But what's keeping Cale so far up front?
Well, I think, Jim, it's that Cale's car is finally coming into its own. Before the race even began, the carburetor was jetted in such a way that it would be able to take advantage of warmer conditions late in the race. So all of a sudden, Cale's car is probably producing anywhere from, say, 5 to 10 more horsepower than it did at the start. They get about 600 horsepower, so even 5 to 10 can be a factor. In other words, it's not just Elliott's problems, it's the fact that Cale is suddenly coming into his full strength.
Next thing you know, these teams will be starting to carry a staff meteorologist. Whoever hits the weather forecast right gets in the race.
Well, the computer age is definitely upon us, and it looks as if that is not so far from the truth. I think within a year or two, we're going to see stuff that is much, much more technical even than what we're used to now.
There is one other car on the same lap, and it's this one, the yellow and white number 5 of Jeff Bodine. However, he is not gaining on the leader either. Cale is winging out in front.
Well, you can see Bodine's problem. The rear of his car is sliding around on the road. He probably really has his hands full, power steering or not. See it? See it there?
Yep.
The rear of that car is very loose, as they call it at this point. Well, Jim, with 2 Fords out front, this will fuel the controversy that's existed since Ford dominated Daytona earlier this year. Are they too fast? Do the rules give them an unfair advantage? Despite the fact that these cars are built purely for racing and bear little relationship to stock Fords and Chevrolets, the one part that isn't changed that much, the body, is making quite a difference this year. To make NASCAR racing exciting, rules must be written which will equalize the on-track performance of cars as differently shaped as we see here. The Ford on the top of your screen is smaller overall than the Chevrolet. Plus, the Ford is permitted to run an inch closer to the ground. Plus, its engine can be positioned further aft in the chassis. In addition, as you can see, the airflow over the back half of the Ford is smoother than over the Chevy due to the Ford's sloping rear window. And smooth airflow means less air drag and higher top speed. By comparison, this is the notchback window of the Chevrolet, higher drag than the Ford's fastback. Some think that the current rules are overdue for a change. Does Ford have an edge? Opinions vary.
I think what happened at Daytona is an indication of the potential that the Ford has, particularly on the bigger speedways, and that's too much of an advantage. I don't have any problem with having to race a guy to beat him, but I don't like to be just out-legislated.
The aerodynamics of the Ford body itself makes the car a little more stable in the turns, and but that's the way the Fords are built, and I don't see where it's fair at all to change the rules because they have a little bit better aerodynamics than some other cars.
It's always been our philosophy to try to maintain some parity among the various car makes, because what we're selling is we're selling competition to the thousands of race fans who have made NASCAR racing what it is today.
Parity, of course, is a euphemism for close racing. And so far in this season, despite Ford's supposed advantage, the score stands at 1 win for Ford, 2 for Chevrolet. Hard to fault that, Jim.
Yes, but the Ford of Cale Yarborough is in fact leading this race right now. And there he is in car number 28. Wait a minute. Cale coming down very low. That car is slowing down. Cale Yarborough has a problem, and it's not a minor problem. He is headed for the pits. Just absolutely without warning, that happened as he was coming out of turn number 2. Suddenly, Cale Yarborough slowed down dramatically, headed down below the line, and as you see, it looks like it may be all over for Cale Yarborough.
That isn't scheduled, Jim. No way. There's Bill Elliott sweeping by to take the lead just at a point in the race, and Cale's going right behind the wall. He has had it. Jim, Bill Elliott looked as if he was being defeated. Cale Yarborough is pulling away. At the time he had his trouble just moments ago, he was more than 10 seconds ahead of this man, Bill Elliott, and now it has turned completely around.
And now this is a scheduled pit stop for the third-place car of Jeff Bodine. He could get back into it now. It's a whole different race. Quite remarkable, though. Usually you'll see some sign, Sam, that the car is beginning to slow. It was just like that, as you say. He was stretching his lead longer and longer and longer, and suddenly he was out of it.
Exactly. Bodine, of course, now in second place. There's Bill Elliott just going into turn 1 here in Atlanta. That car, which at the Daytona 500 earlier this year was able to outrun the field until moments ago, was being outrun here by Cale Yarborough, and then whatever happened to Cale happened, as you said, Jim, absolutely without warning. Such is the sport of automobile racing.
And now in the suddenly somber pit of Cale Yarborough, let's go to Larry Newber.
If Cale feels as bad as anybody right now, the second worst feeling person is his crew chief, Waddell Wilson. Waddell, any warning as to what happened?
No, he just come on the radio and said it blowed up. And, you know, I feel awful sorry for Cale because he drove so hard and wanted to win so bad, but all of us did.
It's a long walk back to the garage from here, isn't it?
Yeah, this is a bad way to end the day.
And now in for what should be the final pit stop, here is the leader, Bill Elliott.
He's going to be changing that right rear tire, Jim. Earlier, Larry Newber mentioned that they thought they had problems with the stagger, which just means the dimension of the tires is unbalanced. The tires are handmade, of course, and sometimes the dimensions come out a little differently. This may have set it up properly this time.
In other words, Bill Elliott should be ready to race to the flag.
When do you say?
Now in the 1985 Atlanta 500 stock car race before a crowd estimated at 67,000. And it looks like this year's winner will be Bill Elliott of Dawsonville, Georgia, in car number 9. He has a sizable lead now over second place Jeff Bodine in car number 5. It looks like only some ultimate disaster could stop him. Right now you're in the car of the 8th place man of the moment, and that is Benny Parsons.
Jim, it's a wonderful feeling to be out there late in the race, having driven almost the full 500 miles. You've survived the jostling and bouncing and all the incidents. You're now completely in the groove. You feel complete oneness with your car. It's really a terrific moment.
And quite a moment for this man, too.
Here's a man who has driven the better part now of 500 miles with an injured left leg. Heaven knows how much pain it may have caused him. It may not have been that big a factor, but I know one thing, the people here are reacting strongly as we see the fans here now as he gets the white flag.
One lap to go for the leader. Bill Elliott is a man you spoke of in our on-camera scene set at the beginning, Sam. You said that the changing of the guard appeared to be here in NASCAR racing and that Bill Elliott might be the man. Well, he's looking like the man today. He'll be the first person to win 2 races in this season of 1985 and perhaps about to assert real authority in this sport. A tremendous lead now as he heads for the checkered flag. It's going to be Elliott. And the big crowd cheers him in as he wins the Atlanta 500. Second place to Jeff Bodine. And it looks like Neil Bonnet will be third. And that's the way it's going to end. So the man with a fractured bone in his left leg waves to the crowd as he comes around on his victory lap, headed for victory lane, and it will be very interesting to see what his physical appearance is, how drained he looks, and what he has to say about his physical situation in the car. There's Jeff Bodine, who did himself a lot of good today, an outstanding drive. And Neil Bonnet, who sat on the pole, led in the early laps, dropped way back, and then managed to work his way up again to third position. So the final standings will show Bill Elliott as the winner, Jeff Bodine second, Neil Bonnet third, then Ricky Rudd in fourth position, Bobby Allison fifth, Terry Labonte sixth, Ron Bouchard seventh, and the car which carried our cameras today, the car of Benny Parsons, in 8th place. Let's go down to Larry.
Well, the car performed very well, but how was the leg? Were you in pain at any time during the day?
Well, it kept bothering me, you know, just trying to hold it up, but I just kept on running and kept on running, and I just hung on.
Is this the second win for the Elliott family or the second win for the Ford manufacturer?
Well, I don't know. I think it's for both.
Incidentally, the season-long point standings have been juggled considerably as a result of this race. Jeff Bodine has taken that lead now.